How's it going, y'all? Brian here, and welcome to my channel where I talk about eye-catching art and eye-catching things. I've set up to paint outside today, as you can visibly see, and this will be the fourth and final portrait from this women's portrait series that I've begun back in March. It's almost kind of embarrassing because that's been 5 months ago, but here we are with the fourth and final installment of the women's portrait series. I've been painting portraits of really important women in my life, and of course that can't be complete without doing a portrait of my mom. My mom was born on May 30th, 1955 in Nueva Vizcaya, Philippines. Our grandparents named her Luz Feminda Pablo after the three main geographical areas of the Philippines, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. But everyone calls her Lily for short. She is the eldest of 5, and from what I hear, she was the quintessential big sister who basically helped my grandparents raise my aunts and uncle. She studied nutrition in college, but after graduating, she worked as a bookkeeper for the Municipal Treasury Office of Bayombong, which is actually a town away from Bambang where we lived. I've never asked her, but it was probably during this time that she met my dad, Maximo Taguba. They had 3 boys, my elder bro Carlos, me of course, and my kid brother Myron. But when Myron was still in my mom's womb, our dad suddenly passed away with a heart attack at just 35 years old in 1988. I would have been about 2.5 years old and Carlos almost 5. Left with 3 young boys, she continued to work as a bookkeeper, and although she had the support of our grandparents, this was still not nearly enough for a single mother of 3. With the lack of opportunities, she made the difficult decision to work abroad, and in 1990, my mom joined the plight of tens of thousands of Filipino women migrating to Canada to work as caregivers and domestic workers for Canadian families. I can't even begin to imagine what she was going through as she prepared to move to a different country away from everything familiar, away from her parents, her siblings, and separated from my brothers and I. The irony of it was that this was all for us and our future. On the night of her departure, she waited for my brothers and I to fall asleep before leaving for her flight in Manila. I guess saying goodbye was too unbearable. Later that night, I woke up looking for her, but she had already gone. And as I cried looking for her, I remember our grandmother trying to calm me down with toys my mom had left behind. But all I wanted was my mom. And as young and clueless as I was, I knew that I wasn't going to see her for a very long time. She had gone far away to take care of other people's children and leaving her own behind in order to provide a better future for us. This is a sacrifice that countless Filipino mothers have had to make, and sadly, this is a pretty common experience for many Filipino families. As a live-in caregiver, she worked for a Jewish family with dual Canadian and American citizenships, and they often bounced back and forth between Toronto, Canada, and Arizona, United States. But it would be in Arizona where she would spend most of her working years away from us. There's no such thing as the internet back then, and we periodically exchanged good old handwritten letters. And in between our written how are yous, life updates, and expressions of our longing for each other were pictures of our mother with a foreign family in settings much like those in movies we saw on HBO. It looked like she was living in a hotel matched with a resort, and their surroundings looked like lush gardens in the middle of a desert. In return, our grandparents would send school, birthday, and Christmas pictures of my brothers and I, wearing identical outfits our mom had sent us printed with Disney characters, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Chicago White Sox jerseys, and LA gear shoes that light up with every step we take. She'd tell us years after that, although she was lucky enough to have good employers working as a nanny, she has never felt so isolated and lonely working in a small town in Arizona. But it was these photos that gave her all the reason and strength to keep on going. On special occasions, we'd be able to talk with our mom on the phone, and because overseas long-distance calls were so expensive, these calls were rare. We didn't even have a home phone back then and had to pay to use the money remittance office's phone. After years of separation, we were finally reunited in 1995 and were brought over to Canada in 1996. But because of the time spent apart and the gap that this has created during some critical years in our childhood, we felt like we didn't know each other. Not entirely understanding why our mom was gone all those years, my older brother and I had some feelings of resentment towards her. We were finally together again, but in many ways, the years of family separation made it difficult to pick up where we had left off, so to speak. It was like having to get to know each other over again, and this has taken its heaviest toll between my older brother and my mom. Carlos by then was turning 13, and because our mom was always having to work, he had to take on a lot of the responsibility of caring for me and Myron, as our aunts were also always working and our mom couldn't afford a babysitter. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with one of our aunts and cousin. The 4 of us shared one bedroom while our aunt and cousin took up the other. Our mom worked 7 days a week for a new employer and picked up part-time cleaning jobs whenever she wasn't babysitting, and she even attended night classes to upgrade her bookkeeping credentials. But she had to stop her studies and focus on working and raising us once we arrived. Some of my aunts used to jokingly suggest, with a hint of seriousness, that she should remarry. And my mom would sassily say, "What would I need a guy for? I have 3 boys." And when she did get suitors, she denied each one and always made her children her main priority. Thinking back on those years of struggle as a single immigrant mom trying to make a home for her family in a new country dispels Canada as the land of milk and honey. And although life back in the Philippines was quite dire for us, our mom paid a heavy price and sacrificed a lot for the life that we have today. And to also dispel the popular narrative that immigrant communities should always be thankful because we owe a lot to the Canadian government for letting us in reality, their strict labor and immigration policies certainly didn't make it feasible for many immigrants like my mom to truly succeed and work in their chosen fields beyond being caregivers and domestic workers. There are many factors at play here, but she never fell short on determination, on hard work, or perseverance, not by a long shot. It was the systemic factors of non-accreditation of her educational and professional credentials that mainly hindered my mom's professional development and success and streamlined her into low-wage jobs. In fact, the important and critical work of Filipino caregivers is only one example why it is Canada that owes migrant and immigrant people a great deal. If not for caregivers and domestic workers like my mom, how would regular Canadian families fare with the government's lack of a truly universal and affordable childcare system? And by extension, care for the elderly and people with disabilities? Yeah, probably not as well. My mom is one of the strongest and courageous people I know, and I can't even fathom how she was able to face the tragedy of losing her husband and making all the difficult sacrifices she has to raise and provide for 3 sons all by herself. She's tough to have gone through everything she has. Mom, I want you to know that you continue to inspire my brothers and I to work hard and do everything we possibly can to strive for a better life. We owe everything to you, and words can't express how thankful I am for everything you have done and continue to do for us. Love ya. Done and done, finally. Thank you everybody for watching up to this point. Now it certainly is a big deal for me to be finishing this 4th and final portrait from this portrait series that I've started all the way back in March. I hope you enjoyed watching this little process video of my mom's portrait and getting to know her a little bit throughout the video. And I think this is going to be a standard practice here in this channel where I do portraits of the people whom I love, who have influenced me and are important to me, and talk a little bit about them throughout the process of painting them. And along with that, I'm really looking forward to be sharing what I've been up to throughout this summer. I've seen many eye-catching sights and have done really memorable and fun things, and I'd love to share them with you through these videos that I'll be making in the near future. I've also been fortunate enough to be able to do a couple more of mural projects, which I've also documented for the purpose of sharing with you all. And I have many more art-based projects that I'll be documenting and recording the process of. So please stay tuned for many more eye-catching art and eye-catching things, and hope to see you next time.